Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the surprise 2022 Gotham City Batman season preview presented by the one and only 2016 League Champions, 3-year plan succeeders, like Vick in a box here. I thought this would be a little bit of fun, after all the draft proceedings. I wanted to do a little something, so I threw this together and wanted to go through it with you guys. There's a two-parter to this preview. First part is going to be rookie draft grades. I remember 2 years ago, I believe Alex, with his last pick, went through the draft picks of everyone. I kind of want to do something like that. Maybe not as in-depth, but just give the grades of everyone. So I threw together a grading criteria, and it revolves around three things. First of all, personal value. That's basically just whatever I think. Whatever I think of your pick. This can be somewhat weighted. Just being, if you draft a guy 30th overall, it might not get the same grade from me as if you drafted him 15th overall. Obviously, value there has something to do with it, but mostly that is just what I personally think of the player. Then you have consensus average draft position. Kind of add this in. So, first of all, a little bit of canceling my personal bias, and also, you could draft a good player, but draft him 15 picks before most people are taking him. That would eat into your value there that way, in case you reach for someone. And then the last thing I looked at was team need. Of course, if you've drafted a lot of people that you need, then that'll help you out. Or if you draft some good players, but they're at positions that you're already stacked at, that would hurt you there. Put it all into a little formula here. Takes your first rounder grades times 3, plus your second rounder grades times 2, plus your third rounder grades times 1.5, plus your fourth rounder grades times 0.5, all divided by 7, plus the number of picks that you had. The reason I kind of did this, obviously the first rounders are a lot more valuable than the second rounders, generally speaking. I was looking at the draft, I felt like the second and the third round was kind of close. Obviously, you'd rather have a second round than a third round, but I figured it wasn't a big difference. And the fourth round seemed to me like mostly a crapshoot, so I really wanted to put that 0.5 there. Because if you draft a guy I think is good there, and it's still kind of just a coin flip, probably not as good as a coin flip on if they'll be productive. And the 7+ number of picks, so that it doesn't just value volume, That's the criteria that I went with. So let's start. Let's get the number one. I think the last place is going to be pretty obvious here. We have Madden's Ultimate Team. They didn't draft anyone. They traded away all their picks, didn't have any draft picks, so that seemed an easy choice to me. If they traded away all their picks and were a contender, I might be more lenient on them. I might put them higher just because they put that draft capital to good use. But in this case, that's just not how it went. Missed the playoffs. The 8th place team or 9th place team. So to not have any picks after that, I think is a major oversight. Definitely a negative there. So that's all I have to say about them. Let's go to number 11. And we have the Vegas Koalas, that's right. And the picture I'll put here is whoever I rated as their best pick. It's not necessarily going to be, you'll see, their highest rated was Greg Dulcich, but I had Desmond Ritter on my personal board ranked the highest. So obviously not a very good grade, 0.68, that's a D- right there. My grade was pretty much 5 to, no, it was 4.5 is an A+, 0 is an F, so this is a D- here. And I'll start this off by saying, look, I've been wrong about QBs before. The Vegas Koalas have done a great job drafting them. I was wrong about Wentz. I was wrong about Herbert. But maybe I'll be wrong about these two guys. I think there's two crucial things about it. Number one, I don't see what a lot of people see in Matt Corral. I don't think he's a very good quarterback. I don't think he has, it's not like a Malik Willis who has a very high ceiling but a very low floor. Matt Corral, I don't see it him 16th overall. I think he could start this year. I think that's a good thing, but I don't see him playing well enough that the Panthers don't just pick a quarterback in there with a top 3 pick next year. Again, I have been wrong, but we'll see. Desmond Ridder is a guy I actually really like him. I kind of have a philosophy, in my opinion, that there was only one quarterback worth drafting in this draft, and that was the guy I took at 2nd overall. We'll get to him. But if I had to pick anyone else, my second guy would have been Desmond Ridder. I think he's in a pretty solid spot there in Atlanta. He could be starting this year as well. I think he's got enough tools. I don't know if he's ever going to be really like a solid starter, though. I think he can be a guy maybe like a Teddy Bridgewater that I had, bounces around the league, gets you starts. I'm not hating on this pick. I think that at 20th overall, Desmond Ridder was a solid choice. He gets a C mostly because of team need. That's why I kind of had these QBs down more. Is you look at the Vegas Koalas, they don't really need a quarterback. It never hurts to have a quarterback, but they've got Mitch Trubisky, who probably will start the year for Pittsburgh. I don't think he'll stay the starter. He's got Jacoby Brissett. He could be the starter in Cleveland, and looking exceedingly likely that will happen. Justin Herbert, obviously a stud. Carson Wentz, he's going to be starting. Unless he gets hurt, he's going to be starting. So that's a pretty good QB room, all things considered. So drafting 2 here, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. 1, I would have said, okay, fair enough. 2, I think really hurt the grade there. But overall, like I said, I'm not a big fan of the Matt Corral pick at all. I don't think he has what it takes. Desmond Ridder, I can see it. I just think the reason I gave it a lower grade was because of team need. Taking the second quarterback here in a weak quarterback draft class, when you have good quarterbacks already, just seemed a little questionable. But skill-wise, at 20th overall, I think is a solid pick. Greg Dulcich here, he got a good grade. I think he's kind of an average player. I think it's not a bad pick. It's just, again, a 4th-round pick. He's going to be backing up Albert O in Denver. I don't know if he's going to do a lot. He could do something, but I don't see him being a sudden steal here. But he could be productive. We'll see. I don't think that he's going to be doing much besides being on the practice squad this year. Let's go to number 10. And we've got the man, Island of Misfit Toys. And this is where I think the next couple of names called, they're going to show kind of somewhat the limitations of my formula, but also kind of what they're meant to show. You'll see what I'm talking about here shortly. Via's 32nd overall, Romeo Dubs, and 34th overall, Pierre Strong Jr. I think they're both spectacular picks. Fun fact, Pierre Strong is the best quarterback in college football history. Has thrown 9 passes, completed all 9 of them. 6 of them were touchdowns. I did the calculations before, I forgot, but it was a passer rating of over 500. So Pierre Strong's the best quarterback in this draft, no question. Best quarterback in the NFL already. But he only gets a 1 grade overall, just a D. It's mostly just because this is what I say with my, don't take these too personally. It's just that it's 2 third-round picks. I meant to make it that way because you just expect when you get a first-round pick, it's like, oh, that guy's gonna have a lot of value. If you get a good first-round pick, it's gonna be a guy with a lot of value. If you get a good third-round pick, a good third-round pick would be a guy who maybe has a couple of dependable seasons. There's always the outliers, but for the most part. So Romeo Dubs, I think, could be Aaron Rodgers' favorite target right away. Pierre Strong Jr., talent-wise, I think he looks amazing. What's his role going to look like in New England? I don't know. But I think they both have what it takes. I think it was a great draft for Cody overall. It's just the fact that it's 2 third-round picks. Logic would tell you to expect, even if they both end up being good third rounders, you would expect them to be about, average flex start players. So I think it was a really good draft here by Cody. I like his decisions. It's just Probably not as big as some of the other guys who are picking first and second rounds. Here at number 9, we have the defending champions, Mr. Yunt. And this is kind of a similar issue here. Jahan Dotson, I think he's pretty solid. I'm not like 100% sold on him, but I don't think it's a bad pick at 12th overall. Getting an overall 1.1 grade, a D+. And otherwise, he made 2 great fourth rounders, in my opinion. Justin Ross, he has amazing potential. If he can capitalize on it, we'll see, because obviously there's a reason he fell undrafted. He looked like one of the best wide receivers we ever seen, and then major injuries and never really recaptured that flame. And you have Kyren Williams here too. He had a pretty rough combine. Didn't have numbers that really blew you away, but he's got some good tape. He can be skilled, and he's in a situation, both of them are in a situation to succeed. Justin Ross with Kansas City and Kyren Williams and the Rams. But mostly, again, this is just, he had about an average, I'd say, first round pick, and then 2 fourth rounders. With any fourth rounders, but especially in this draft, it's kind of a crapshoot. These guys could, I believe Kyren Williams was a 6th round pick, 7th round pick, and Justin Ross was undrafted. They could end up being steals of the draft because they both have potential, or they might not even be on a week 1 roster. That's just how fourth rounders go. I had to give him a lower grade here overall, but I think this was a pretty solid draft. Justin Ross and Kyren Williams are both really good players. Justin Ross was a guy I thought about taking with my 3rd rounder. So, again, don't mean this is any shade. Shout out to the defending champs on a pretty solid draft. We have a number 8, Mr. Beasts. And this is where I guess my formula is a little flawed here. So I gave out 2 A+. One of them is here with Isaiah Spiller. On the other hand, Malik Willis is one of my lowest rated prospects on here. Again, I said I don't think any QB prospect was worth drafting in this besides Kenny Pickett. Otherwise, I would say Ritter was an understandable choice. Malik Willis, look, he's got undeniable skills. He's a very mobile quarterback. He's got a very strong arm. Could be very talented in this league. He's going to have a lot of work to do to get there. I don't see it happening. I just don't. If it proves me wrong, he's going to be, if he puts it all together, he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's top 5, no question, I think. But looking at everything, that's going to take a lot, and I mean a lot, to get there. I don't think you can make that many changes at this point in your career. So I'm not a fan of that pick. Then again, I wasn't a huge fan of the Mac Jones pick, and look at it. So again, I have been proven to be wrong at QBs, but hey, I've made some solid decisions lately. I'm banking on my eye test there. Isaiah Spiller, I think, was a very good choice. He was someone I was thinking about here. I wouldn't have rated it A+ if it went to any team other than the Beasts, because I think that he is a very good prospect, would be good. It's just the fact that he's stuck behind Austin Eckler. Now, Eckler gets hurt a lot, but while Eckler's going to be there, and he's got 2 years left on his contract, Eckler's going to get the vast majority of the touches. However, Mr. Beast has Eckler. So I think Spiller, already a very talented player, in a position where, the starting running back can get hurt, but then couple in the fact that he has the running back that can get hurt. I think that's the best handicap you can do. A talented, it's not just drafting a player because he's behind your guy. It's drafting a very talented player who happens to be behind your guy. I think he's going to have the starting running back for the Chargers for a long time to come. We'll see, but I think it's a great pick. This is where I guess my formula is a little off, because only 1.22, a D+ here. He had one really great guy and one average. One really great guy and one really bad guy, and that kind of averaged to a low grade. I think he probably deserved to be higher, but this is what the grade said. I think for the most part, my grades were good. Just this is one that I wasn't sure about. And number 7, here we go, Rye Bread. Rye Bread had the most Rye Bread draft I could think of. And I think that if I was ranking, if I wasn't going by the grade, I was going by my personal ranks, I think I would put Mr. Beast over Rybread here. Christian Watson, I don't think he's anything really special. I'll be honest with you. I understand the allure. He could be a wide receiver one for the best quarterback in the league right away, but he might not be. There's a lot of options in that offense still. I don't think Christian Watson is just a runaway choice for wide receiver one, but it's very much a Ryan pick. You look at it, Christian Watson here, first round. He's going to be able to produce right away, but his ceiling might not be that high. That's just like the Clyde Edwards-Helaire pick that he made a while back. It's a guy who produced right away, but not the best running back from that class, that's for sure. Probably not the second or third best. Alec Pierce. I think Alec Pierce was a very solid signing. He was my highest ranked overall here. That's why his picture's up there. I do think that he's a good player. I think that is a smart choice for the Rybread organization. But I think that's his best pick. And then you have Velus Jones Jr. and A- because it was a good value pick. For where he took him in the 4th round, that's a solid choice. But again, this is a very Ryan pick. Velus Jones Jr. is 25, I believe, already. He's not... what you got is what you're going to get. It's just the fact that Chicago really doesn't have anyone besides Darnell Mooney. That Velus Jones Jr. probably going to get some receptions, but he's not a long-term player. I don't see him ever being a guy that you're putting in your wide receiver slot. He's a flex start at most, I think. It seems like a very safe, in a 4th round where everyone seems to be a boom or bust candidate, he was really the safe guy. Where, yeah, you're going to get stats, but I doubt you're ever going to get very good stats. I don't think Velus Jones Jr. is going to be on this team in 2 years, 3 years. It's, like I said, very Ryan draft, 1.55, giving him a C-. So still a little below average, but the guys that he took have enough ability that they're going to produce right away. I just don't think it's the highest ceiling in the draft, I'll be honest. So I got Ryan at number 7. Here we go, number 6. We've got Krispy Kreme. And I think Krispy Kreme had a pretty solid draft overall, 1.88 C rating. Chris Olave, I'm not a huge fan of his, but he runs very crisp routes. I just don't know what his ceiling is. Dameon Pierce was a great pick. We'll see how he does in Houston. Houston's always the worry, but he's got a pretty clear line for solid targets, and he's a lot better than his stats showed in college if you watch the tape. 27th overall, Jalen Tolbert, an A player. I think he probably would have gotten an A+, but is a steal of the draft. It was a guy I was really hoping to get at 30th overall. I can't believe he slid this far. He's going to be probably 800 yards this year. I think he's a great signing. He's going to be a long-term weapon for Dallas, in my opinion, and only a chance to go up with playing time now that Amari Cooper's gone, and people will be needing bigger contracts. People won't have to go out. I think Tolbert is an amazing pick. Then you go to the 3rd round, and not the 3rd round, the 4th round, Keontae Ingram. It's an interesting pick. In Arizona, if James Conner is still not the best pass catcher, if he goes down, who are you going to have? Keontae Ingram kind of is a potential to fill that void. I don't know if he will. I'm not the most impressed with him, but at 4th round, I think it's a safe pick. And Jelani Woods is interesting. I watched the tape, and I'm watching his highlights, and I'm like, really, that's it? I know he's doing much better than I could, but he doesn't seem like a great player. But the Colts have used tight ends a lot. And obviously, Matt Ryan has used tight ends a lot. Jelani Woods could be the best tight end on that roster right now. If that's the case, is he going to get a lot of catches? I would imagine so, but I don't see him being a very good player, if I'm honest with you. Yeah, Krispy Kreme did a solid job. To him, really good picks with Dameon Pierce and Jalen Tolbert, in my opinion. Then we have number 5. We've got the Dynasty Champions, small asterisk, because they have not won a Dynasty Championship, but are the Dynasty Champions. Just wanted to bring that up real quick. They had the most picks in this draft. It got a 1.95 rating, a C+. We've got James Cook, Ray McBride, Brian Robinson Jr., Hassan Haskins, Sam Howell, Tyler Beatty, Calvin Austin, Jalen Naylor, and Jeremy Ruckert. And to me, I think the Dynasty Champions draft was very boom or bust. In my 3 columns, I had my personal thought column, my ADP column, and my team need column. Out of all those, I gave out 7 Fs, and I believe I gave out 4 of those Fs to players in Dynasty Champions, as they made a lot of questionable decisions. But they also made a lot of good ones, leading to, like here, an A- from Brian Robinson. I think getting him at 28th was amazing. I don't know what his ceiling is, but they've already said that he's going to be splitting time with Antonio Gibson. And to get him in the 3rd round, that's excellent. So, great pick by Dynasty Champions. James Cook is a little bit of a reach, in my opinion, at 8th overall, but he's got a clear path to some solid starting time. He's a great PPR running back, so I think that's a great pick. Hassan Haskins, look, I don't think he's going to get any playing time while Derrick Henry is healthy, but is Derrick Henry going to stay healthy? If he goes down, Hassan Haskins turns into a running back 1 in fantasy, and that's amazing value for a 3rd round pick. Same thing with Tyler Beatty. Baltimore runs a lot. They've run enough that you can have basically 3 fantasy relevant runners with Lamar Jackson. Whoever their starter is and whoever their backup is usually is still pretty solid, can put him reliably in a flex spot. Now, Beatty is buried pretty far down the depth chart there, but we saw how many injuries that Baltimore had last year. If he gets a chance, I think he's going to be pretty solid. I don't think he has a playing style that's conducive to a long career, but if he gets a chance, I think he's going to be a great steal for him. And you also have Calvin Austin, the 3rd here. In the Steelers, it's a little bit crowded in the Steelers, but I think he's got a pretty good chance to get some solid playing time. I watched this tape. I like it. So we'll see. For a 4th rounder, great value. But then you get to some of what I would say the really questionable things. Ray McBride, I look at his tape. He doesn't look like a bad tight end, but he looks like nothing special. Taking him in a 2nd round, a tight end, going to have that $2 hit. Tight ends just aren't that valuable, in my opinion, unless you're getting the top guys. And Trey McBride, I don't think he has any chance of being a top guy. So, and not only that, but specifically him being in Arizona, they just signed Zach Ertz to an extension. They don't really run 2 tight end sets. I don't see that Trey McBride has a real easy place to get catches from. So it's just a little questionable to me. Sam Howell, look, he's a system quarterback. You saw what happened. He was this big stud, and then all of his weapons left, and he couldn't throw. He wasn't very good. All of his stats went down every year. And it's simple. Hey, look, this guy just had great weapons, and once they left, he couldn't get it done. I don't see any way that Sam Howell does well in the NFL. And clearly, I mean, he went, 5th round? So NFL executives agree with me there. I don't see it happening. I think it was a really bad pick on his part. Jalen Naylor, I don't think he's bad. I understand why you take him. Look, Adam Thielen is not going to be on this team forever. They've had, historically, about 3 good wide receivers. Look at last year, KJ Osborne was solid. Not a guy you want to start every year, but Naylor could take that role once Thielen leaves, or maybe Naylor could beat out KJ Osborne. We'll see. I don't think it's a bad pick. The reason I put it with the bad pick, because Sam Howell got an F from me in quality. I don't think he's good at all. Jalen Naylor got an F from me in ADP because he was 69th overall, pretty nice. But he's a guy that I guarantee he could have just went undrafted and picked him up in the free agent draft. Taking him 40th overall, that's a huge reach. I don't think he's a bad player. It's just I think you could have gotten him lower. In 48th, Jeremy Ruckert, he sucks. I don't know what to tell you. My lowest ranked prospect, the only one who got 2 Fs, and it's for 2 reasons. Number 1 is you should never draft 2 tight ends in the same draft. And Dynasty Champions don't have a bad tight end room. They don't have a good one, so drafting 1 I understand, but why would you draft 2? It makes no sense. So that's just a terrible pick right there. It's not, I didn't, he was like one of the few people I didn't even look at the tape at because I don't care. I don't need to know what Jeremy Ruckert's tape is to know that he's an F here because he's the 9th best option on a New York Jets offense that doesn't have a quarterback yet. I mean, how is he ever going to get any catches? And if he does, like, he's going to get 1, 2, maybe 13 all season. Like, he's not going to get a lot of catches because they have their 2nd round pick at running back, who is a good pass catcher, plus the 4th round pick they had last year, who's a good pass catcher at running back. They have a 1st round pick this year at 10th overall, a wide receiver, plus a 2nd round pick they made last year at wide receiver, plus I believe a 2nd round pick the year before that's a wide receiver, plus Corey Davis, who they signed in free agency, plus 2 tight ends, not 1, but 2. The top 2 highest paid tight ends this offseason were both now New York Jets. He's got no chance at getting any playing time whatsoever. He's never going to be a relevant fantasy option. It was a great video. I give credit to the Stash and credit to the Dynasty Champions organization for making that draft video. It was excellent. Terrible pick. I'm sorry to say. But that's all I got with the Dynasty Champions. Really boom or bust. I see a lot of great picks. I see a lot of wasted picks. We'll see what happens. I think this could turn into a great draft, but we'll see. We got number 4, the Heroes Dynasty Deserves. And I think the Heroes Dynasty Deserves is really just, they nailed their 2 top picks. And I don't think they did very good on the other ones, but when you got 2 first rounders, which by the way, the top 4 teams all have 2 first rounders, makes sense why they'd be high up. I think pretty much everyone, but maybe one person, have made good first round picks. So it makes sense. You're getting a first round value player. He's going to be high up there. Garrett Wilson, he looks great. He's a great wide receiver. I don't think he's the best wide receiver, but I think he deserves a first round billing. And I think the fact of the matter is the New York Jets have put so much time in building, and they signed 2 tight ends. They drafted high on wide receiver the last 2 years. They signed a big wide receiver, and they still went out and got Garrett Wilson 10th overall. To me, that says he's going to get touches. Not a Jeremy Ruckert situation where he's not going to see the field. Garrett Wilson is probably going to be the wide receiver 1 right away. Now, the reason I have him a little bit lower, I think, is because it is still crowded. Can Zach Wilson support fantasy wide receivers? I don't really think so. I'm still not a big Zach Wilson fan. But Garrett Wilson was drafted high, so he would be used, and he's going to be used. Sky Moore is the most chiefiest pick ever. It's great. I think it's an amazing fit. I think he'd be good if he went anywhere else. But the reason he's so high up here is specifically because he went to the Chiefs. Obviously, it's a great place for anyone to go, but I think he's just such a great fit there. I see it very likely that he could end up better than Garrett Wilson. Now, next, the last 2 picks I have, Tyron Davis-Price. I don't see him. He's okay. That San Francisco offense, it's a little bit of a mess at running back. I mean, their best running back seems to be a wide receiver, but Elijah Mitchell looked good, but then they drafted a guy in the 3rd round again. And Trey Sermon is still there. I'm sure he's going to get a chance again. I don't think they're giving up on it right away. And Isaiah Pacheco, I forget how you say his last name. It's just, I understand why, another Kansas City guy, and they need running backs, but they still have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and they signed Ronald Jones to play. Isaiah Pacheco, I just don't see. I looked at his tape. He has some characteristics that you can like, but I don't think he can put it together and be a good starting running back, really. So I'm not a big fan, but again, 2 great wide receivers he took, and that's what he needed. He needed wide receivers the most. With running back, I think that's another reason why I had it low. Heroes Dynasty Sisters have the best running backs in the league. Did they really need to take these risks? I don't think so, and I don't think they're going to pay off. But when you draft 2 amazing first-round wide receivers, you're going to get a high grade, 2.11 into C. I know C, you think that's not very good. I think the highest grade here was a B-, so I think the only way you'd get an A is if you get an A on every pick. I don't think anyone did that. So a C, above 2, very good. Above average, I think he did a great job. Number 3, We got yours truly, Mike Vick in a box. Obviously, this is going to be a little bit skewed because I think that I did a good job. Oh, that's right. The highest was a B plus. My bad. Obviously, I'm going to think I did a good job. All my players, except for one, got a minus or higher in my personal grade. So it's a little skewed, but I still did balance it out. And overall, I think I did a great job. Look, Kenny Pickett, I know people are going to hate on him. I know people are saying, oh, it's a new Christian Hackenberg. Look, watch Kenny Pickett's tape. Watch all of it. He's got every single skill. I think people hate on him because he's got small hands, and that's about it. Other than that, he's got every single skill. Yeah, he's not as athletic as Malik Willis, but he can scramble. He can get out of the pocket. He can extend a play. He might not have the arm strength of Malik Willis, but he can still throw down 50 yards down the field accurate. It's not like he's a check down Charlie over here. He can air out the ball. It's just he can't, throw it 80 yards like Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes can. He still has arm talent. If it's not just elite arm talent, it's good arm talent. He's accurate. He is good at making decisions. He lowered his fumble rate, so I don't think that's as much of an issue. The only issue that I worry about him with is going through his progressions quicker. But I think, A, I think that's something that he can learn, and B, he goes through his progressions well. It's just he does it slowly. He still makes good decisions. If they can speed that up, which I think they can solve in the NFL, he's a guy who really has no flaws besides having small hands. And I think that's silly that he would fall. I think he's taking over for Pittsburgh in week 4. I think he's going to be the starting quarterback for a decade in Pittsburgh. I think he's really good. I don't think he has that elite talent, but I think he's above average, no question. That's just me. That's my defense of Kenny Pickett. Jameson Williams, we'll go on to him. He would have been the first wide receiver drafted if he didn't tear his ACL. I think everyone's in agreement with that. And it looks like his ACL healing is going pretty well. So I think it's an amazing pick. I think he could be the best wide receiver in the league. Not in the league. Best wide receiver in this draft class. I understand why people passed on him. The ACL being torn on a player whose main game is speed is a little concerning. But if things seem to be going well, that guy, he has no acceleration time. And I mean that in a good way. And the fact that he catches that ball and you see him turn on the gear and he's just gone. You're like, holy cow, how did he go that fast? I think it's a great pick. I'm really excited about it. And you go on to Tyler Algier. I'm just kind of gushing over my draft here. The reason that he's a B is because I'd reached for him. I even gave him a B plus in my own rating. I love him. I think he's one of the best running backs in this class. After you go after the top 2, I think he's the 3rd best. He's in an amazing position. And I will say, even though I feel everyone says I reached, and I agree I reached, he was average draft position of 22 for a rookie, the 22nd rookie taken. So it's actually not that much of a reach. I just think he looks great. You look at his tape. He had a bad combine, and that really kind of scared people off. But you look at his tape, I don't think he's a 460 40-time runner. I think he's a lot faster than that. And he's a big guy. He has some comparisons to James Robinson. I know all about that. I'll take it. I think it's going to be a great pick. And Khalil Shakir, look, he's a deep threat. Playing for a quarterback who loves to throw the deep ball. Someone else has to take the passes after Stephon Diggs. It could be Gabriel Davis. I don't know if Khalil Shakir is going to work out. And I think he got a lower grade here because I didn't really need a wide receiver. Jameson Williams made sense to add, and Khalil Shakir, really not a position of need. But I think he's got 800-yard potential for a 3rd rounder. 800 yards and so a lot of touchdowns because they'll be catching the deep ball. I think he could be a solid flex starter. We'll see. And at the 30th overall, I think that's pretty good. I gave myself the first B here, a B minus, a 2.59. Let's move on to number 2, the top 2. And who is number 2? We've got the Green Machine. Now, the Green Machine is really, I think, carried by their first round. They had the 2 of the best first round picks that you can have. The only reason that Treylon Burks is not the second A plus here is because the Green Machine is loaded at wide receiver. They didn't get a high grade at position of need. But Treylon Burks, I think, could be the best wide receiver. I was thinking between him and Jameson Williams. Him getting Treylon Burks at 9th, that's just highway robbery. Amazing job by Green Machine. Just all he had to do was let Treylon Burks fall into his lap. And Breece Hall, A minus. Look, Breece Hall, I'm interested in how he's going to work in New York, but he's a very good running back. He's been a good running back for 2 straight years in Iowa State, which hasn't been the best offense. But Breece Hall still produced. He's the consensus number 1. He had a 1.0 in all the mocks. Everyone's taking him first overall. Green Machine didn't mess up. They picked him at the right spot. So I think it was really good. I like what he did there. It was the right choice, and I think it's going to help him out a lot. And I think he could use another running back. And then you kind of go into what I'd say a tale of 2 drafts after that. So you can see he had a 2.69. And when I did the math, if he had just pretended he only had his first round picks, he would have had a 2.55. So almost all that value came from his first 2 picks, which were excellent. But it's the fact that with his next 6 picks, according to my algorithm, I guess, he only added like 0.1 something to his score. And I think a lot of it is, look, John Mechie, I think he's okay. He's going to be in Houston. He might make a difference. I don't know. He's not impressive to me. I think he can be pretty good. I don't think he's a bad pick. He's just a very average pick in my opinion. Then you go to David Bell. David Bell is a guy that I do like. I think he can be really good, and he got a B for a good reason. Then you move on to Wan'Dale Robinson. Look, he did this last year with Kadarius Toney. Wan'Dale Robinson is what, 4'3"? I like him. You look at him, he's very fast, he's very shifty. But when you get in the NFL, those people hit different, and you can't, your elusiveness, you can't get by just on speed and elusiveness. You're going to get hit, and I don't see Wan'Dale Robinson doing much. And I don't see how he's going to catch balls over NFL defensive backs. Tyquan Thornton, look, I watched Tyquan Thornton play in Baylor, just like I watched Jalen Hurd, just like I watched Denzel Mims, and look where those guys are. And I will tell you this, maybe I'll be wrong, but I haven't been wrong yet. Tyquan Thornton just doesn't look like a very good NFL wide receiver. He's fast, sure, and he is fast. But, I mean, so was John Ross. That didn't do much for him. I don't see Tyquan Thornton as a really complete guy. And Danny Gray. I think Danny Gray is an amazing pick. The reason he gets a C here, team need. Look, Green Machine maybe has the best wide receiver core in the league. And this was his 6th. He drafted 6 wide receivers in this. I mean, why? And look, I like Danny Gray. I think he's a great player and who could be really good on that team, especially if Debo, because Danny Gray drafted by the 49ers, if Debo leaves, Danny Gray has a chance to play. And play a lot. But you just don't need wide receivers. At the point, like, you can say you never have too much of a good thing, but even with how many wide receivers he has, if all of them end up being good, he can't even trade a lot of them because they'll say, well, we know you're going to drop one. What are you going to do with, I just think it's way too many wide receivers. I get what he's kind of get what he's trying to go for, but I think it's just too many. And I have Snoop Connor here, the last, ending off his picks. Snoop Connor is interesting. I think he isn't anything special. But he's going to a team, Travis Etienne, just coming off Liz Frank, and James Robinson ended the season with an injury. So Snoop Connor, if people don't come back 100% or get re-injured, he has an inside track at stealing some touches. I think it's interesting. I don't think he's particularly anything special. We'll see. Overall, I think basically nailed the 2 first-round picks. David Bell and Danny Gray, pretty good. Everyone else, just eh. But then the last guy, the Moon Dynasty. Look at I think he had an amazing draft. A lot of it is driven by the fact that he needed running backs and he drafted running backs. But you got Drake London. He's a beast with the ball. I think he's a good 3rd overall pick. Again, not my favorite wide receiver, but he's solid. And look, he's not my favorite wide receiver. He was ADP's favorite wide receiver. He was 2.67, I believe, in ADP. People like him. So, maybe I don't think he's the best, but I still think he's very good. And other people disagree with me and said he's the best. And again, we got Ken Walker III. He's my second A+ candidate here. First of all, he was usually going third in drafts. I guess he had 3rd overall, but still, it was a good ADP. He needs a running back. And Ken Walker, look, they only signed Rashad Penny to a 1-year extension. Chris Carson probably not going to play football again. It looks like Ken Walker has an inside chance to be a bell cow back on, well, not one of the best teams, one of the highest volume running teams, one of the best running teams, I guess. And they got him an offensive tackle, more than they would do for Russell Wilson. But hey, Ken Walker, I can see him being an instant impact. And the thing is, people will knock him for his hands. That's just because they didn't throw to him in Michigan State. He had a very good career catching the ball in high school. I don't think he's going to have any problem with that. I think he's going to be an RB1 here. I almost took him second overall. I kind of wish I did, but I was worried about Kenny Pickett, and I thought I needed a quarterback. That's another story. I think Ken Walker, amazing pick. He's my other A-plus player here. Yeah, George Pickens. I'm not impressed with George Pickens, I'll be honest. Not a fan of his. I got a C+. But then you got Rachaad White. I shied away from Rachaad White because I don't think he has that ceiling. I think he's kind of like a future Tariq Cohen. But I think the thing is, Rachaad White this year is probably going to be locked into Shinwu's roster. Some of that is because he doesn't have a lot of running back help, but some of that is because Rachaad White can step into a role in Tampa Bay right away. He can be a big pass catching back in a PPR league. That's great. And I think you can't underrate that. I don't think Rachaad White can ever become like an RB1, but if he can be like that Tariq Cohen type and catch a bunch of passes at the backfield, carry it every now and then, that's going to be a great fantasy asset for him. So props on that. And Zamir White, kind of the same thing, because he's not like a PPR guy. I just don't see him being a real, he's not going to be, he might lead a committee, but I don't think he's ever going to be alone. But he did have a light workload in college. I think that always matters. And Las Vegas, Kenyon Drake's not the answer. And they declined Josh Jacobs' 5th-year option. Zamir White next year could get a chance. That's pretty solid. Overall, I think it was a very good draft. The only B+ here, 3.29. It was a lot higher than, let me go back and check, 2.69, second highest for Green Machine, and then you have 3.29 here. I think Moon Dynasty did amazing, and a lot of it is because of ADP. Rachaad White was taken like 6 picks higher. Zamir White, I think, was on average 7 picks higher. The Moon Dynasty, I guess we decided they weren't worth it, but he was picking up on our mistakes, if you want to say that. He was getting guys that at great value and addressing a position of need. I think that Moon Dynasty really improved their team here. They're the number 1 draft team, in my opinion. So there we go. That's the draft. And then we get to the second part of the video, the off-season power rankings. Now, this is a little bit wild. I'm going to have some mind-blowing picks here. This is way too early. I'll admit that. I think you're going to see most of this stuff and understand it. There's going to be a lot that are going to make some people mad, and I'm excited. I'm excited to make those people mad. I think there's a lot of confusion here. There's some wild card teams, like, are they going to be good? Are they not? We'll have to see. First thing I did was make projected cuts, make projected practice squad members, and make projected franchise tags. I didn't want to just go, we can't just go off our current values when we know people are going to lose players. So I made projected cuts there. Give bonus based on projected cap space. There were 3 tiers of cap space. One person is going to run, in my opinion, if people go off my projected cuts, there's going to be one person who has a ton of cap space. They get to run the free agent draft. They got 3 points. There are going to be 3 people who have a moderate amount of cap space, either a lot of cap space for one person or a decent amount of cap space or a lot of cap space for a few people. They got 2 points because I think they can make a difference with their free agent draft. Everyone else got 1. It's basically just saying, hey, these people are going to be able to add value in the free agent draft. I don't think the free agent draft is the be-all, end-all. But I think it adds to your team, and I think these people can add to their value of their team. Then I graded the top 3 running backs, top 5 running backs, top 3 quarterbacks, top 5 running backs, top 6 wide receivers, and top 2 tight ends, and gave it a grade on a scale of 1 to 5. 5 being elite, 1 being just absolute trash, absolute garbage, and just added those grades up. Added those grades up and gave the cap space bonus. That's what you got. Sorry. And yeah, Like I said, there's going to be some surprises here. Let's start off something that's a surprise to no one. That's the Dynasty Champions here at number 12. They blew up. They don't have any draft picks, really. I guess they had a few. They had a lot of draft picks, low draft picks. They don't have any high draft picks. They had to trade for those. They gutted their team last year. This is just not a good team. The QBs, whack. I mean, you got Geno Smith. That guy might not even be a starter, but if he is, that's not a solid starter. Zach Wilson, I don't think he's a good quarterback. They drafted Sam Howell. That guy's not going to see the field. He's not a good quarterback. Got Tyron Huntley. With how Lamar Jackson has been hurt, he's going to get some playing time, but that's not a guy you can really depend on. It's just a really bad quarterback team. All of his running backs are backups. Even if some of them are serviceable, like he's got some solid guys. It's not like it's nothing, but and you're looking at here, his number one is probably James Cook, and he's not going to be the starter right away. Kenyon Drake, backup. Gus Edwards, backup. Mark Ingram, backup. Brian Robinson, he's going to get some playing time, backup. And it's not like he's got nothing, but these guys are all guys who are, at best, an RB2 in a committee. His wide receivers are solid and pretty deep, but overall not that reliable. You've got Deontay Johnson. He's the best player on that team. I don't think he'll stay on that team for long, honestly, with the way Dynasty Champions are trading everyone. Devontae Parker, he's probably the number one wide receiver in New England, but he gets hurt all the time. Russell Gage in Tampa Bay, will he produce the same now that he's in Tampa Bay? He's probably the third wide receiver option. I'm looking at Paris Campbell, injured a lot, but has a chance. He's very talented if he's not injured. Gabriel Davis, will Davis capitalize on that playoff game? The last playoff game he had, or will he go back to being kind of average? McCole Hardman could be a big player in Kansas City, but I dropped him because he was losing a bunch of offensive snaps. He wasn't getting a lot of time there for a while. So we'll see. It's nothing I can really write home about. Like here, Deontay Johnson, only player on the roster that had over 200 fantasy points last year. That's just not going to get it done. Tanya and Njoku have potential for major fantasy growth. Njoku, he wasn't very good, and he hasn't been very good, but he's going to... Austin Hooper's gone. Could Njoku get all those catches? That'll be really good if he does. And Tanyan didn't have a good year, and obviously, ended hurt. But who else is going to catch passes in Green Bay? I think he's got potential to really break out. Tight end is probably the only bright spot of their lineup. And overall, he's got 2 points because I think he's going to have a lot of cap space. But with how many draft picks he has, I only have him being able to add one player in the fantasy draft. It's going to be a good player because he's got a lot of cap space, but that's it. And that's because I had to drop Jeremy Ruckert from that list. I didn't draft any rookies. The only one I did was Jeremy Ruckert because first of all, I just think he's a waste of a roster spot. But if I didn't drop him, he wouldn't have had any room. So I can see him adding one player that's going to really help him, but they need a lot more than one player to make this anywhere close to a contender. And then here, I've got a big surprise here. Number 11, we got the commissioner, Rybread. That's right, I'm calling him out. After Josh Allen, who does he have a quarterback? You got Deshaun Watson. Doesn't look like he's going to be playing this year. You got Daniel Jones. Yeah, good luck with that. You got Baker Mayfield. Well, if Deshaun Watson sits out, Baker's not playing for Cleveland. Is Baker even going to go anywhere? And is Baker going to be good? In that case, you're looking like you're going to have Josh Allen, Daniel Jones, and no one else, really. That's not good. That is not good. Maybe, hey, if this changes and Deshaun Watson is starting in Cleveland all year and Baker Mayfield maybe goes to another team, the quarterback grade goes up a lot. But as of now, he's got Josh Allen, and that's it. That's not good. Deshaun likely suspended. Baker not willing to play for Cleveland. Like I said, that puts a big dent in it. His running backs are good when healthy, but Christian McCaffrey is never healthy. After that, he's got Javonte Williams, who looks very good and probably going to have an expanded role this year. Then he's got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's just okay. And look, he got hurt last year. And they didn't sign Ronald Jones to give Clyde Edwards-Helaire more playing time. They plan on probably doing this committee. If you're looking at us relying on CMC, who's never healthy, and Javonte Williams and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, that's rough. And they don't really have anyone else after that I think they're going to be able to keep. Again, this is adjusted for cap space. I don't think they'll be able to keep anyone after that. There's not really anyone else on their roster that's going to be really that difference maker. Yeah, lack of RB depth, injury-prone running backs. Wide receivers are still strong. He's probably going to keep one of Evans or Allen. I would guess Evans. I don't know. It depends on who he wants. Either one he can keep. I think he can keep and will keep one of them. He's got DJ Moore. He's going to be good, but he's going to have a real quarterback throwing to him. Doesn't look like it. Jerry Jeudy, going to be very good, but is he going to get hurt again? Who's going to be catching the most passes? That Denver offense has a lot of weapons. I think Judy's going to be the biggest one of them, but how big will he be? Van Jefferson, he's starting to break out. Could be good. After that, Christian Watson and Alec Pierce, how are they going to do as rookies? I do think wide receiver is his strongest position. Still a very strong suit, but we'll see. I'm just going to say Noah Fant. Could he be a disappointment in Seattle? Obviously, he had the injury issues. He's a very talented player. I'm not disputing that, but Seattle doesn't have a lot of good performing tight ends, and you've got him catching passes from Drew Lock or Geno Smith. Is that really going to take him to that next level where you're like, oh, he's a really good tight end? I don't know. I don't really think so, but we'll see. So yeah, after the commissioner at number 11, the big bombshell, calling him out, you got number 10, Krispy Kreme. A little bit more understandable. But Goff and Tannehill is not a good QB pair. Will Tannehill even be starting by the end of the year? Goff will be, but he's not a fancy, he's a QB2 at best, and he's going to be his most reliable guy. It's better than I thought he would be, but it's just still lackluster. Gibson likely in a lesser role. Like they said, he's going to be splitting time with Brian Robinson, plus J.D. McKissic still there. And other than that, he's relying on the Houston running back room, which it could be a mess. Look, the Houston running back room last year was not someone you wanted to start in fantasy at all. Marlon Mack is good. Dameon Pierce looks good. He's got Rex Burkhead just in case, but I don't think that's going to be a guy you're not going to feel confident starting whoever you have in that running back room, I don't think. Maybe you will. We'll see. Wide receivers look good, but nothing like jumps out at you. Michael Pittman's very good. Michael Gallup's very good. But Robert Woods, he's okay. How will he do in Tennessee? Who knows? Jacoby Myers, he's good, but he's not a real fantasy weapon. And I don't know what his role is going to be now in this new offense. They've traded for Devontae Parker and drafted Tyquan Thornton. Chris Olave, I don't think he's that special. Jalen Tolbert, he's going to be good. He's probably going to be an 800-yard receiver, but that's just okay, That's not going to be a guy that really changes you on in season one. I think he's going to be amazing for him, but not right away. Pump the brakes there. The place that you got to give him credit, Kelsey and Goddard, top-tier tight end duo. I think it's at least second. Maybe the best tight end duo, but at least the second best. He's got a 5 score there, no question. But I don't think that's going to be enough to win it all. Next, let's go to someone else right here. Number 9, the Mun Dynasty. They're my wild card team. I see them somewhere around here. I could see them being even worse, but I could see them sneaking into the playoffs because they've got a team that's very young and has a lot of question marks. If they solve those question marks, though, that's going to be pretty good. Quarterbacks are plentiful. No one's proven. You've got Davis Mills, Justin Fields, Tua Tagovailoa. Who else did they have? They had someone else. Oh, Marcus Mariota, the golden child there. Davis Mills, he was pretty good last year, but he was a QB2 at best. Is he going to be able to be better than that? Justin Fields, I think Justin Fields can be better than that, but he doesn't have a lot of weapons in his offense right now. Tua, he's got a ton of weapons in his offense. Can he take the next step? And Marcus Mariota, I know Shinwoo loves him. I don't think he's going to be starting in Atlanta very long. But if one of those guys or two of those guys puts together a big improvement, it'll be great. But we haven't seen that yet. Same with running backs. He has essentially 4 rookies in my scenario. And 3 of them are rookies: Ken Walker, Zamir White, and Rashad White. ETN is basically a rookie, drafted last year but didn't play. If they all play up to their potential, it could be a really solid running back core. But we don't know. We don't know what ETN is going to be coming back from his injury. We don't know what Ken Walker is going to have in his role in his year 1. We don't know if Rashad White is going to seize that role as the primary pass catcher. So it's hard to say. Wide receiver room is legitimately elite. One of the best out of everyone's. Mike Williams here is amazing. Fantasy wide receiver 1. T. Higgins, somehow the second best. Both of these guys, second best wide receivers on their team, but they're both elite wide receiver options in fantasy. Devonta Smith looks good. Adding Drake London, he's going to be wide receiver 1 in Atlanta. Cortland Sutton, a weapon on a very strong Denver team with a good quarterback finally. Even Marquez Valdes-Scantling could get some chances. We'll see. He's in KC. We'll see what happens. But overall, just an amazing top 5. But I will say, it looks like they're not going to have any tight ends on the roster. With the moves I made, I don't see them sticking around. I think the only guy they had was Jared Cook. He's a free agent right now. Some stuff could change, and besides him being a free agent, he's also $15. I just don't see him being on the roster this year. So it's hard to say. There's just so many question marks. But if they figure it out, it could be great as soon as this year. And they should have the most cap space. I was saying there's one guy who has a lot. I had Shinwoo penciled in at, I believe, 111 for a fair amount. I think 8 spots. If Shinwoo wants a guy, he's going to get him in the free agent draft. That's my opinion. So he's got a big boost there. There's just so much unknown for this team. I'm excited. I think they could push to the playoffs. They could also be pushing for first overall. We'll see. And we've got number 8, Madden's Ultimate Team. I think they're another kind of wild card. This 9-10, what I'm going to have in 9-8, 7-6, kind of all wild cards. My 1 through 3 are guys I think that just aren't going to be good. 12, 11, and 10. This 9 through 6 are all guys I think could overperform, could underperform. They need to stay healthy. We know that from last year. Madden's Ultimate Team does not have depth, and it doesn't look like it's going to get much better. They need their players to stay healthy. Mahomes and Wilson are a top 5 fantasy QB duo. If Wilson rebounds, never, and I don't see any reason to suspect he doesn't, right? Russell Wilson was pretty much a top 5 fantasy quarterback every year. He just had a down year last year with bad supporting cast plus injury. And I don't see any reason to think that he's not going to get better. Running back is going to be incredibly thin. Alvin Kamara, is he going to be in at the start of the season? Is he going to get suspended? We'll see. But he's still elite. But after that, Rashad Penny, you don't know what's going to happen with him. With Ken Walker coming to that team. And after that, they have Chris Evans. Yeah, here, risk of short-term Kamara suspension and Penny becoming back up again. We'll see. And Chris Evans, I don't think he's going to be much for Cincy. They have 4 solid wide receivers, but Hopkins is going to start out. For 6 games, that's going to hurt because DK Metcalf is going to be good. Is he going to be good with catching passes from Drew Lock or Geno Smith? I don't really think so. Juju, he's in KC. Could be a really good opportunity for him. Is he going to stay healthy? Again, that's another question. And Chase Claypool, he's still not proven as a guy you can really lean on. He's going to be in this lineup, but you got those four guys are all very solid, but they've all got questions. And Hopkins is going to be tough to replace. He's got Quintez Cephas and Jordan Palmer, who are the only guys I can see him keeping because I think they can make a difference, but they're not going to be elite replacements. The only last note I have here is Gerald Everett. I think holding on to him is going to be important. He's the starting tight end with the Chargers. That's a big boost. I think that you could see him become kind of a higher level, a top 6 tight end maybe. Probably not going to be elite status, but kind of that one of the best in the tier after Kelsey and Andrews and folks like those. We'll move on to number 7. That's Vegas Koalas. Kind of another wild card here. The quarterback room, I think, is very good. Herbert, obviously amazing. Wentz has been solid. Fantasy-wise, he's been solid. I don't think he'd be moving around the league if he had a much better contract. And looks like Brissett could be the starting Browns quarterback. That's 3 guys. Even if I don't think Brissett is that good, that's 3 guys. Plus, you obviously have the 2 rookies that, I'm not a fan of Corral. I do like Ritter. They could both be starting by mid-season. This is a very good quarterback room. The issue is going to be running back right here, and that's because all of their guys, they have talent, but they're all not the main. They're not going to be the only guy carrying the rock. James Conner, we saw he broke out, especially when Chase Edmonds was gone, but they brought in Darrell Williams, who was pretty good in KC for a while there. I don't think James Conner is going to be getting the same kind of stats he did last year. Same with Montgomery. And look at what Khalil Herbert did while Montgomery was hurt. I think he's going to be stuck in that timeshare. Miles Sanders, you've got Kenneth Gainwell. He's going to be good. He has been good, and Sanders has struggled. You got Chase Edmonds. He's probably the starting running back in Miami, but they signed, I forget who, they signed another player with him. Plus, you've still got Myles Gaskin there. That's going to be a brutal committee. And obviously, Michael Carter. He had a good rookie season, but the Jets decided to draft a running back, and he's going to be running back too. So all these guys, they have potential. They've proven themselves, but they're in brutal committees. It's going to be hard to know who to start and what their ceiling is going to be. Wide receiver, that may be the best trio of starting wide receivers, but no one behind him. Cooper Kupp obviously led the league in fantasy points last year. Amari Cooper was good in Dallas, could be great in Cleveland as the number 1 guy. And Darnell Mooney, I mean, who else are they going to throw to in Chicago? He was great last year. I think he's only going to get better. But after that, I have Calvin Ridley. Ridley's out once again. So who are they going to get to back up those guys? When one of those guys have a bye, who's going to step into their role? I don't see who is. So that's a little bit of an issue there. And will Freiermuth take the next step? He was pretty good last year. Pretty solid. Can you take that step that fill Gronk's shoes? Because Gronk was great when he was in. Freiermuth had some good games. He needs to string together a lot of good games. Can he? I mean, I wouldn't rule him out, but we don't know. And here we go. The first team in the playoffs. He's still a wild card in my opinion, but I'm saying a repeat appearance from the Island of Misfit Toys in the 6th slot. Rodgers is great. Is Tyler Lawrence going to take that next step? I do think that he's a good quarterback. No one really succeeded under Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer even managed to take players who were good last year and make them bad. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be just fine. And if he is, that's a great duo right there. Can't deny it. But we'll have to see. That is a question there. And after that, he's got Minshew, who I don't think he's going to start over Hurts at any point, but he might. But it's still kind of a long shot. Running backs could be really good, but it all depends on what happens with Gordon and Dillon. Gordon looks like he's still going to be... He's going to transition kind of from the head of the committee to the backup of the committee. That could still get him a lot of fantasy points. We'll have to see. And A.J. Dillon was a boon last year, especially in PPR. If he keeps that up, hey, that's going to be very good. And obviously, to headline it, you got Dalvin Cook, who is elite. If he stays elite, I mean, running backs have collapsed before, but I think if he stays elite, if he stays healthy, he's going to be really great on that running back roster. Major concern about Saquon. He's been injured too much now, and I think the concern is he's always been really good, but just get hurts a lot. When he came back from injury last year, he wasn't that good. He was getting outperformed by Devontae Booker. if he keeps getting outperformed by Devontae Booker, that Saquon's not going to last very long. We'll have to see. But I'm pretty bearish on Saquon, if I have to do say so myself. Even with that, though, Cook, Gordon, Dillon could be an amazing trio. Wide receiver will be very thin, but that is in my projections. I have them projected to drop Tyler Boyd and Marvin Lewis because I just think they're low ceiling guys. You can keep them and they'll probably be starters on the squad, but they're going to decline. At best, stay the same. I think it would be best for him to drop those guys, but after that, he does have a lot of risk. He basically has a bunch of Green Bay guys and hopes that he gets one of them. Alan Lazard, Amari Rogers, and Romeo Doubs, who we just got. I think he has a good chance of getting one of those guys, but we'll see. Is he going to get the wide receiver 1 or the wide receiver 2 for Green Bay, or is he going to get none of them? I don't know. We'll have to see. I think it's pretty risky. Obviously, you have Elijah Moore, who's pretty good, but he's not the best because he's already been relegated. They drafted Garrett Wilson to play over him. And after that, they've got Laviska Shenault. They signed 2 big guys. I think they've given up on Shenault. KJ Osborne, who's good, but he's going to be the wide receiver 3 until further notice. My projection does. The reason I had them drafting Boyd and dropping Boyd and Marvin Lewis is because it gives them a lot of cap space that gives them the ability, instead of keeping the 2 wide receiver 2s, I say wide receiver 2s, they're wide receiver 2s like in their team, they could be probably a flex start. I would say that's the only place you'd feel comfortable with them. So you keep the guys who are kind of a flex start, or you could go all in and drop big money on a big name wide receiver. I think that's the smart decision. That's what I did. I think that makes their team a lot better, but that's why I don't really know. We'll have to see what he does. Kyle Pitts, fancy tight end 1. He's ready to take over for Kelsey. 1,000 yards in his first season. He's amazing. That's a 5. Just with him, that's a 5 in rating. So I do think that Allen Mrs. Toys, they've done a lot of good stuff. We'll have to see, but I think they can repeat in the playoffs. And so we got the defending champs, Mr. Young. In this top 5, I have my 12, 11, and 10, the guys I just think stink. I had my 9, 8, 7, 6, who are all wild cards. I think they could be worse than I ranked them, or could be better. And then you have right here the top 5. I all think that they're contenders. And we're going to start off with Mr. Yunt. Probably has to lose either Jameis Winston or Matt Ryan. Who's he going to drop? Jameis Winston is not as much cap space. If you drop him, you're going to have to drop someone else probably with him. But Matt Ryan is likely the better fantasy quarterback. What's the decision? We'll have to wait and see. I personally chose them drafting Matt Ryan because I thought that was the best decision for cap space wise. But we'll see. His running backs are a little bit of a question mark. Mixon is amazing, a top 5 guy. Looking at his other guys who he's kind of ridden on so far, Josh Jacobs and Aaron Jones have kind of been losing their grip. Like I said earlier, Josh Jacobs is not they denied his 5th-year option, and Aaron Jones lost a lot of ground to A.J. Dillon last year. Are they going to be that elite running back anymore? I would say signs point to no, which is why I'm a little bit less high on the team. Wide receiver group is amazing. You've got headlined by Jamar Chase and Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel, the best wide receiver and running back in San Francisco, and Jamar Chase was like one of the best wide receivers in his rookie year after not playing his senior year. So that's just insane. The question marks come with Renfro and Lockett. Last year, elite. Didn't have any questions about them. But Devontae Adams is coming in. Renfro's probably going to lose some catches. I got to imagine he does. How good is he going to be? Is he still going to be that guy you can slot in your wide receiver slot, or is he going to be more of a flex guy? Tyler Lockett, kind of same deal. Not as much because of competition coming in, but because of quarterbacks coming out. I'm a little bearish on the Seattle wide receivers. So we'll see if they keep it together. That'll be fine. But if not, I don't know. Other than that, though, they still do have good options, which is why I think the wide receiver group is not really a concern. Because Christian Kirk did not get paid all that money to be the third best wide receiver on Jacksonville. He's going to be getting all the targets. And Jahan Dotson, I think he's got a lot of room to grow. He needs to grow, but he's the second best wide receiver on the commies right now. I think that's great. He's got a very solid wide receiver group. At tight end, Ertz and Schultz. Those two guys were starting caliber tight ends last year. I don't think it's as good as previously the Kelsey and Goddard, but that's very capable. You're not going to have to worry about tight ends with that duo. Let's move on. To me, your host again, rated in the playoffs, Mike Vick in the box. And before you say, oh my gosh, you're a homer, you put yourself high in the draft, and now you're putting yourself high in here. Look, I finished 7th. I was 1 game away from the playoffs, and not only was I 1 game away in the playoffs, if I made the playoffs, I won that game and made them instead of Cody, I would have won the first game. I would have won the second game. I would have made it to the finals. I would have lost to Mr. Beasts, but I would have made it to the finals. So a guy I was 1 win away from being the second best team in the league last year. So don't sell me short. That's all I'm saying. I put myself 4th here. I still think I got a ways to go. But look, Burrow and Kyler both finished as fantasy QB1s. That's an elite duo. I just added Kenny Pickett to that, who I think is going to be a future at least QB2. I think he has low QB1 potential. So I think it's great. Like I said, he's the best QB in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh might start with Trubisky, but they know who's the better quarterback for the Steelers. It's Pickett. So he's going to be starting at some point this season, and he's not going to let go. Najee is top tier running back. He's elite. Top 3. I believe he was 3rd last year. He broke out in a big way, and I don't think the Steelers gave him enough O-line help, but he got a better quarterback, and they didn't draft anyone to help with the workload. Najee is still going to be a workhorse. The rest of the running backs is where you get the concern, because how much are they going to play? You've got James Robinson. If ETN is healthy, is he the running back 1 in that committee or the running back 2? How much of that is going to be a committee? We'll have to see. It's rough. He's got the talent for sure. Does he have the playing time? Damian Harris. The last 2 seasons were probably the best season a New England running back has had since LeGarrette Blount. And he's still a running back 2 in fantasy. That's the thing. Once he leaves, because Robinson and Damian Harris are both free agents after this year, but until then, being in Foxborough just limits your ability as a running back. So I don't know what's going to happen, especially because they drafted 2 running backs this year. I don't know what to expect. It's hard to say. After that, you got Tyler Algier. He's a rookie. He's got a great path to starting in Atlanta, but he's still got to earn it. We don't know what's going to happen with that. After that, it's just hard. Justin Jefferson, wide receiver 2 last year for fantasy. He's incredible. And my wide receiver crew, my wide receiver crew is elite. I don't want to hear anyone hating on it. Justin Jefferson, fantasy wide receiver 1. Jalen Waddle, about to be a fantasy wide receiver 1. I think he was last year. If he wasn't, he was like a 13th best. So he was the best wide receiver 2. Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, 2 years in a row of 1,000 yards. And he's got the best quarterback that he's ever had now in Carson Wentz. Jarvis Landry in New Orleans. If he stays healthy, that guy's going to be good. And now new draft pick, Jameson Williams. I think even though he's going to probably miss 4 games as a rookie, he still has a pretty solid chance of being a 1,000-yard receiver. Tim Patrick, he's been 700 yards. He's not a great player. But that's a guy you can slot in your fantasy slot, in your flex slot. And Robbie Anderson, he could stink like last year, or he could rebound like the year before. And I have a lot of options. My wide receiver core can really handle it. I think it's one of my highlights of this team. I think I'm set there for probably 5 years at least. My tight end duo, Hunter Henry and Logan Thomas. Hunter Henry was a tight end 1 last year, but just barely. Logan Thomas was hurt most of the year. It's just okay. I'm happy with going into it. I'm not going to trade for a big tight end duo, a big tight end. I don't think I need to drop anyone, but I know that's not a strong suit. it's acceptable. So that's what I'd say with regards to that. And the big thing, I should still have enough cap that I'm not gonna be a Shinwoo, but I have enough cap that I can make one or two big acquisitions. And that's gonna help me a lot, especially if it's at running back. We'll see who's even available, but I think you're gonna have a lot of good players available, and I am gonna be one of the front runners to get some of them. So there you go. That's another reason that I'm up here at number 4. I still got the cap space. All these years, still have the cap space. Don't have money playoff wins to go with it, but I'm always putting myself in a position to get good free agents. So there you go. Now I got number 3. We've got the Mr. Beasts, the all-time winningest team, the 3-time champs. Carr earned that fantasy contract. We thought, oh man, big $49. He transformed and took his game to another level, and for the first time, I think, in his whole career, he doesn't have to worry about someone behind him. Carr was always the starter, but they always were wondering, Carr's the starter in Las Vegas. He's going to be until he retires, I think. On top of that, you got Lamar Jackson, but he's excellent only if he stays healthy, and he has not been staying healthy. That's a concern. But we'll have to see how that goes. And Mac Jones obviously has been a great option as a rookie that gives that flexibility, but he still has to take that next step to be more than like a QB2. He's got the best 2 running backs. They don't get hurt. And we know Derrick Henry coming off a big injury, and Austin Eckler always gets hurt. Last year, he only missed, I think, 1 game. The year before that, I think he missed 6. So we'll have to see. If they stay healthy, no one's beating that duo. And he's got not a lot of depth behind it. Jamal Williams is solid as depth, and Darrell Williams in Arizona is going to be okay. We don't know his role, and we don't know what Jamal Williams' role is going to be. He was pretty solid in Detroit. Is he going to have that same role? We don't know. After that, he's basically got the backup running backs for Carolina, Chuba Hubbard and Donta Foreman, who are both pretty solid, but they're only going to play if CMC gets hurt. Now, I would say it's almost guaranteed that he's going to get hurt. But Chuba Hubbard was not very efficient last year. He got the carries, but he wasn't very efficient. And Donta Foreman, he's bounced around for a reason. I think he's a pretty good running back, but overall, it just depends. Those guys, it's not the best depth chart. It's better than nothing, but it's not the best. So he's got to hope that those guys stay healthy and stay at the peak. And there's another thing. He has 4 wide receivers that I have him keeping. After that, no one else. Devontae Adams, very good. A.J. Brown, very good. Rondale Moore, a lot of chance to improve. Amon-Ra St. Brown, a great rookie season. But the big thing, how are Devontae and A.J. going to fare with their new teams? Devontae is very good, but he's going from Rodgers to Carr. That is a downgrade, even if I am saying Carr did really good. But he's got Renfrow now. Last year, he was the guy. He's been the guy in Green Bay for a while. He's still going to be the number 1 wide receiver, but how many touches is Hunter Renfrow going to take from him? And A.J. Brown, look, they haven't had 2 good wide receivers in Philly for a while, but Jalen Hurts is not that great of a quarterback. He's a great running back, essentially. Quarterback, he's just okay. Is he going to be able to keep up the stats of A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert, who's pretty damn good? So I don't know. We'll have to see. That's a question I have, why I probably have him lower here. But the big thing, tight end, and the more I look at it, what really is kind of separating these top teams is this elite tight end. Mark Andrews is an elite tight end. He's Lamar's favorite target. So overall, it's a very good team. The wide receiver questions, I think, wide receiver and running back questions are what leave me lower. But he's got elite starters. It's just, we'll see if they keep it up. Now at number 2, we got the Heroes Dynasty deserves. The guys who have never made the playoffs, I'm putting them at number 2. Because look, the QB core is going to be excellent. Tom Brady again, killing it. Dak Prescott again, killing it. And Trey Lance looks like he's going to be the starter in San Francisco. So if that's the case, that's two guys who are QB1s, and Trey Lance has a chance to be a QB2 even if he's bad just with his legs. I think that's a very good situation to be in with quarterbacks. His running back depth is insane. I mean, he's got DeAndre Swift, he's got Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, Cordarrelle Patterson, Elijah Williams, and Khalil Herbert, and Kenneth Gainwell. Those guys, that's 7 running backs that are better than most people's top 3. He's got legitimate number ones. Even if people go down, he's got good replacements, good PPR performances. It's just awesome. I don't know what to say. He's got the best running backs in the league, bar none. Maybe he doesn't have that elite talent like the Beast do, but he's got 4 or 5 guys that you don't want to see in that lineup. Wide receiver could be great. It was great last year, but just like last year, it's plagued with injury-prone players, and the guys he's bringing to replace him are inexperienced. CeeDee Lamb is very good. He's the number 1 guy. He doesn't fall into this group. You got injury-prone Chris Godwin. You got injury-prone Kenny Galladay. And you've got Sky Moore and Garrett Williams. How are they going to do? Are they going to be able to be relied on like he's going to need them to be relied on? And Bryan Edwards did pretty good, and he's going to be in Atlanta. He's going to be very elevated on the depth chart than he was in Las Vegas, but how's it going to go? That's the thing. A lot of injury-prone players and a lot of unexperienced players, and then CeeDee Lamb. And Gesicki delivered on his promise. I traded him because I didn't think he could. But the Dolphins franchise tagged him, which I was surprised about. That means you like him. And look, Gesicki makes jaw-dropping plays and also just disappears for games. If he can consistently make those jaw-dropping plays, he's going to be amazing. We just have to see it. I don't know. If Gesicki doesn't deliver, can Albert O, the guy who has the last name I'm not even going to try to pronounce, can he live up to the hype? He's had a lot of hype. Brendan's certainly been hyping him up, but the media's been hyping him up. Denver is hyping him up, and they thought he was good enough that they traded Fant in that deal. If Gesicki's not going to be the guy, can Albert O be the guy? We'll have to see. This all being said, I fully expect them to miss the playoffs this year. I think they're one of the best teams. I think they should miss the playoffs, but I kind of just expect bad things to happen to the Heroes. I don't know. And the thing is, too, while some of it is bad luck, also like this wide receiver core, Chris Godwin is going to get injured, and Galladay is going to get injured. Their running back core, they could get injured. We don't know. Some of it is sad, but a lot of it is like, look, you know that these guys are injury prone. So we'll have to see. I think they deserve to be not just a playoff team, but a first round bye. But just off history, I'm expecting something bad to happen. Well, let's bring it to our number 1 team. Well, the only team that didn't get mentioned yet. That's the Green Machine. I'm putting them in the number 1 spot here in our power rankings. They're way too early power rankings after the draft. QB, we'll start off with the question mark. That's QB. Jalen Hurts is amazing at fantasy. He is a great fantasy quarterback. He's not a great NFL quarterback. There's a reason that they signed Carson Strong. There's a reason that they traded for Gardner Minshew. They are not sure about this guy. If he starts, he's amazing for the Green Machines, but he's got to be good enough on the field, not just good at running, basically, and getting those fantasy touchdowns. He's got to be good at his job, good at throwing. And now that he's got the weapons, he doesn't have any excuses. If he doesn't start playing up to that potential, Gardner Minshew could be coming in. We'll see. I think they like Jalen Hurts a lot. I don't think that's going to happen, but he's not out of the water for sure. After that, you've got Kirk Cousins, who I think he's above average quarterback. I think he's a good quarterback. The fact that Minnesota hates this guy. They've been talking about getting rid of him the whole time. He's not the guy they want. I think he's good enough, but he certainly has had consistency concerns. And again, Minnesota has been looking. They don't want to extend him. They didn't even really want to keep him. They've been trying to find a guy to replace him. They don't like the guy, so we'll have to see about it. Then you got potentially 4 running back ones. I'm jealous. And the thing is, they're all within his price range, if he so chooses. Got Jonathan Taylor, Leonard Fournette, Nick Chubb, and Brees Hall. I think 3 of those guys were running back ones last year, and Brees Hall has potential to be one. That's just insane depth. Insane talent and insane depth. It's going to be hard to beat that. If he rolls that out, what are you going to do against it? And like that, you got 4 guys who are elite wide receivers as well. Stephon Diggs is going to kill it. Tyreek Hill. We'll have to see what happens with it. Him in Miami. But we know he's talented enough to be a 1,000-yard receiver. Hollywood Brown, I think he's going to a great place in Arizona. I think he's going to be helped a lot. And then you've got Treylon Burks. I love the guy. I think he's going to be an instant 1,000-yard receiver. I have no concerns about him. I think that's great. After that, it gets a little dicey. But when you've got that amount of depth and skill at wide receiver, plus that amount of depth and skill at running back, it's not a big concern. And then you got the tight ends, Kittle and Hawkinson. Top 5 tight ends. I said that Kelsey and Goddard were at least second best. The reason I said that was because of this. George Kittle and BJ Hawkinson are amazing if they stay healthy. Both had health issues last year. They're amazing, though. You can't deny their quality. And I think they're going to be excellent this year. With all that, that's pretty much, I think I had 5. Yeah, their quarterback was the only thing I didn't grade them a perfect 5 on. They have just so much talent and so much depth everywhere but quarterback. We'll have to see what they do about that quarterback position. Are they even going to have to? Because if Jalen Hurts keeps his job and Kirk Cousins stays an above-average quarterback, that's all they need. As long as someone doesn't get hurt and someone doesn't get benched. I think this is a no-question number 1 team in the power rankings right now. But that's it. That's the last thing on the slide that I have for you guys. Thank you for listening to this probably way long-winded rant about fantasy football. I had a lot of fun doing all this stuff. I'm excited for the season. I'm ready to get started. I hope to see you guys. We'll get together sometime, whenever that is. Let me know what you think. I think I know at least one member who's going to be pretty unhappy about these predictions. I'm ready for it. I'm excited to get this season started. I know it's going to be a while, but hey, never time like the present to start the fantasy football trash talk. So hey, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. By the way, forgot to add this in. I know this has been somewhat of a hot topic, who the best Batman is. Is it Christian Bale? Is it Robert Pattinson? And I just wanted to chime in, you guys can argue which one you think is better, but I think we all know what the true best Batman film is, and it's right here. This is obviously the best Batman film ever made, so yeah, just wanted to put that to rest real quick.